Abdullah, how are you?
I'm very, very well. For Women's History Month, my big aim and intention was at least to have one female person talking about a TV show or TV shows. I didn't just want it to be me and producer Paul. So thank you so much for coming on.
Glad I could, be the tick box on your diversity improvement.
I mean, when you put it like that, it's just like, right, box ticked. Right,
Yep,
that's it. No,
yep, yep,
no,
yep.
no one can say anything to me now. But
No one can say anything. And you know what? Person of color as well. So double whammy.
oh yes, yes, you see that, right? So because it's Women's History Month, just wanting to quickly ask you, what is there any like female icons that you love and you wanna big up?
Oh, so yeah, when every time this time of the year rolls by, March time, just as a woman, you just end up thinking about this a lot more because there's so much going on that's all about celebrating women. For me, it has to be some even fictional characters that I've grown up watching and reading about. So, watching on BBC whenever they've done a kind of drama adaptation of
Hmm.
these periodic classics. So, Elizabeth Bennet, Jane Austen classic from Pride and Prejudice,
Okay.
and a few others. And then I would also add to that list some modern day heroines for me. So there's journalists who I think are doing amazing work in upholding and challenging truth to power. So there's
Absolutely.
a lot of like amazing people who right now, the world is changing so much, and so it's great to hear it through a lens of a woman. So whether it's journalists from TV or broadcasters or anyone, I mean, like the list is endless, and I don't want to say that that means we've reached representation, the height of representation. We haven't. I feel like there's a lot more, but a lot more has to roll through, and it's also having women in the corridors of power, really. So
Yes.
that's why I don't think I can feel fully comfortable and content right now. And that's why we're going to have continue to have this day right along in March, which is often on the 8th of March,
Yep.
which is about celebrating International Women's Month.
Absolutely. I was about to say, right, we'd conquered gender equality having you on the pod. I was about to be like, right, that's it, finished, done. But obviously, there's a lot more to do.
A lot more to be
And
done, yeah.
and in terms of what you do, tell
Mhm.
tell the listeners what you do and what you're about.
So for the past 2 years, I've been running a YouTube channel where I put up comedy sketches, and it's been a pretty new thing for me because I've been in the world of working in an office, and just head down doing the normal status quo stuff. So to put myself out there in the way I have on my YouTube channel has been a pretty different and challenging role. Definitely out of my comfort zone. And also for the past year, I've also pushed myself to be a stand-up comic. So
Ooh,
I've been invited to quite a few amazing festivals as well, where I've got to showcase my work. And I'm also currently doing the London comedy circuit right now. So it's all
awesome.
exciting, but very, very, very busy. And it's always a case of where I have to constantly look at my material and replenish it and see how best I can hone in the humor. It's always a work in progress for me. And so I realized that there's no such thing as complacency in the world of comedy. And the question that you asked earlier on, who are your female role models? I didn't even talk about my comic female role models. And there's so many to be had. I mean, like I talked about the serious stuff because I feel like International Women's Day is very serious. It's about, changing hearts and minds and, talking about the role of women as an equal to things that haven't been often spoken about in that kind of equal narrative. But comedy, if you believe that comedy can change the world, which I don't necessarily think it can, but I think it has a real role to play in terms of providing a kind of healing and comfort zone where you can feel and experience things and laugh at issues that are quite traumatic. And I love it when I watch female comics. Often, the tradition has been that people have thought women are not funny, but actually there's a whole host of female comics who are amazing. So whether it's from the US, whether you've got Sarah Silverman or Liza Schlesinger, or from the UK, we've got some amazing comics. My favorite at the moment is Sarah Pascoe.
Oh, I like
Absolutely love
her.
her. Absolutely love her. She is genius and
Yeah,
a real intellectual heavyweight who brings an amazing zeal to comedy, and is has contributed to the British comic landscape amazingly.
awesome. And what got you into comedy, and what made you think, right, I want to do stand up comedy?
Oh, I think it was about putting myself into the deep end, something that I definitely was not comfortable in doing. If I ever thought about it, I used to love going to watch stand up comedy, and never in a million years did I sit there in the audience and think, I can do that. No, it never even crossed my mind. It had crossed my mind from a very young age that I want to go into the world of entertainment. As and what shape that takes, it never quite materialized until the past 2, 3 years when I finally launched my YouTube channel and actually really took control of trying to figure out how this comedy world for me is going to look like. So,
Yeah,
the comedy sketches, the characters that I play, everything has kind of been taking shape over the past 2 to 3 years. And now stand up comedy. What got me in? I think it's the fact that I really don't have much time in my life. It's always, isn't it, when you kind of like feel like there's so much piling on, you've got so many responsibilities, so many commitments, whether it's to people, your loved ones, the
yeah,
work, and then you start questioning your own identity and your own time and whether you're really doing what you want to do.
yeah,
When you have so much time on your hands and you are doing a certain job, sometimes you can just coast in that job, because there's really no pressure points to make
hmm,
you think, is this really what I want to be stuck in?
yeah,
Sometimes you can just get comfortable in that. And I feel like the discomfort of having not much time to myself has forced me to introspectively look into this a little bit more, and so that's where comedy is really kind of spurned from. And it's literally going back to basics. I grew up watching a lot of sitcoms. The way I spent time with loved ones was actually sitting in front of the TV watching, whether it was like old slapstick comedy, black and white films, anything, the things that brought me joy. And I was like, this is the world I came from, and this is the world I have to enter because I love it. I love sometimes having that creative challenge of making people laugh. And now the whole prospect of whether I can go on stage and make people laugh after every few seconds, there's a kind of, I don't know, it's you get a kick out of it. It's a challenge that you just think, wow, I could get a high on this. I could just just kind of ride off the wave of just bliss from this. So I guess it's like me. People do all sorts of things, whether it's like jump off a cliff or not cliff, sorry, whether it's like bungee jumping. Let's make this a bit more safer.
yeah. I know what you meant. I know what you
Jumping,
meant. Don't worry, I know what you
or
meant.
anything like that, right? um you kind of want that adrenaline rush, and I think I'm trying to get that kick with putting
Oh,
myself on stage and thinking, right, I'm gonna be very vulnerable, expose myself just so that I can elicit a laugh.
oh.
So that's really where it comes from.
And in terms of your YouTube channel, is that something that was linked with the comedy, or was that something else that you wanted to pursue?
So it's all under the banner of comedy for
Ah,
me.
okay.
It's, I mean, like, I guess my original passion is comedy writing,
Hmm.
and I've been a writer for a few years, and that's where I was coasting. I was in a freelance job, and I had other commitments, and you just, people ask you what's your next step or whatever, and I try not to get browbeaten by people's questions, because you can start internalizing them with
Yeah,
your
yeah.
own sense of judgment, like you're terrible, you're not progressing, you're not moving forward. So for me, I think what happened was the I thought, okay, I love writing, want to move into the genre of comedy writing, but I can't start writing from scratch, where it feels like, I'm gonna have to go through this whole procedure from the beginning. Any career you go into, you feel like, you have to start from the bottom. So I was like, I'm tired of making contacts, um, although you can never tire of that. That's a given. You have to constantly be networking, constantly be hustling. But what I mean is be a nobody and start from the bottom, where I felt like I was quite middle-aged. Right, just the whole, oh, let's get an internship, let's work for nothing, etc., which is something I'm still doing right now. But there's no gatekeepers. That's what this whole YouTube world and any kind of, I mean, you're in the business of setting up your own podcast, so I think you probably know what I mean when I say that you get to create your own momentum by building an audience.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that in
still trying to
itself,
figure it out myself. So
yeah, and and you never, I don't think you ever get to a comfortable place where you're like, okay, right, I'm riding the wave. You constantly have to work at it, and you constantly have to
absolutely,
nurture it.
big time.
Big time. So, for me, I think the online world was presenting a huge opportunity where I get to bring my writing to life in a time where I don't have much time. And, but I get to control my own deadlines.
Yeah,
Of course, there are unwritten rules which dictate that, you've got to be consistent. That's a rule.
yeah,
And sometimes I can't always adhere to it. But and also, like, you've got to um be prolific, you've got to be, well, I think consistency is the main thing. You can negate on the quality.
yeah,
It's a great opportunity, but it changes the game so much that,
yeah,
the way you were used to working in terms of quality control,
yeah,
being a perfectionist, that all has to go out of the window, and you have to learn to be ad hoc. You have to
hmm,
learn to be kind of spontaneous. You have to, you basically have to get out of bed and think, okay, right, at this very moment, I have something that's very unprepared, but I'm just going to do it because I have a self inflicted deadline.
yes,
So that,
yes,
and so, yeah, so that's how I got into it, because it just worked with my life so well. And here I am 2 years on, probably still not as consistent as I'd like it to be, but that's a work in progress. And yeah, it's done well. Like, some of my characters have really resonated with the niche community that I've cultivated, and that audience is still growing. And people often remark that, oh my gosh, there's a real character development with some of your caricatures that you put out there. And so people are following those personalities that I've created. And, of course, they are representative of certain, um, you know, the types of people that exist within the South Asian stroke Muslim community. So it's an intersection of experiences of these characters trying to ride the wave of online trends, or anything that's making it big and newsworthy within the Western Muslim community, or if it's a story that's just of global interest. I try to incorporate my characters with those plots or those stories or those running themes in the background, and so it's exciting, and it's very relevant and topical. And that has also then spurred me to put myself out there as a stand-up comic, because I think it was like my next exciting project. And for me, it's like, you can do the sketch and monologues online, and often the punchlines are created when you edit two bits together, and you're like, oh, that's funny. That wasn't intended, but that's funny. And the difference with stand-up comedy, as I'm beginning to learn, is that there's no such thing as putting two pieces together, and having a delay on stage and thinking and asking the audience, does that work or does that not work? You have to pre-craft your material. Of course, there are certain audiences, like this is what I'm learning about entering the whole open mic scene, is that you can test material. It's just you have to develop thick skin, um, because if the audience does not laugh, you have to feel comfortable in yourself to know that you are actually going to go back home and not want to hide under a rock because the audience didn't laugh, that you're going to then go back to the drawing board and try and tweak
Yeah.
the setup and then the punchline. And sometimes I've discovered my setup was the punchline. That's been a fabulous discovery, and you're just
Oh, I
like,
bet.
oh, they just laughed at that, and then it's funny because then I repeat that setup several times, knowing in my head the previous audience in the other club laughed. They're gonna laugh now, and lo and behold, they laugh. It's kind of without fail, and
Yeah.
so as someone who's crafting the material as they go along, it's exciting.
And in terms of, I think you might have mentioned it already with the intersectional, with like the Muslim community. So, what would you say is like your biggest audience? Who are the people that gravitate towards your content and the stuff that you're doing?
The biggest group of people that gravitate towards me are the British South Asian Desi community.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of focus on some Muslim themes, that does not isolate anyone. I feel like having Muslim topics anyways, such a big deal, and that people want to kind of tune in, and it doesn't matter what background you're in, because we are a group of people that are in the news quite often.
In
So the
vogue. We
Yes,
are
we are
in
in vogue.
vogue.
Yes, we are in vogue. Um, and it's fascinating that, people who also come from other backgrounds are tuning in and they're having a laugh. Um, that is until like I post some of my clips onto Twitter, and then all these keyboard warriors come out, and it's like I feel like
Oh
Twitter is
no.
one place where people just want to be angry for the sake of angry. And so, they'll start, deconstructing my comedy. And I'm like, you know what? Go back to your armchair, you critics, and just armchair, because, there is an audience that is currently lapping this up. You know,
Yeah.
they are laughing. I'm having people from all communities saying, "Oh my God, I have an auntie that's just like your auntie Sugar." And it doesn't matter what community you come from. There is an archetypal Auntie Shagufta in everybody's culture. And of course, there are people. So I've got people who come from the South Asian community who are Hindus or Sikhs. They can see that auntie character in their community.
Yeah.
And often, like, if I've also got a character who's like a online influencer. And, originally she started off as being a modest fashionista. Now, this you'd think would just be exclusively something for the Muslim community, because, they're tuning in to the likes of Dina Tokyo, Amina Khan, the original modest fashion bloggers. But no, I think that the whole world of fashion blogging online that's taken off over the past 5 to 8 years has been such a big deal that people like this character. Her name's Nabzi, and they like the quirks around her. And it's just an added bonus that sometimes she talks about modest fashion, or if there's been a particular trending story that I've taken her as a character to kind of break down that particular story. So whether it's and I think 2 years ago in Ramadan, there was a big hoo-ha around the fact that I think I can't remember the makeup brand, but they introduced a makeup brand that was for a particular time of day during Ramadan. So it's like Sehri time, which is that early, early morning, waking up pre-dawn breakfast time when no one
Yeah.
is alive. We're just about eating our breakfast. And they introduced a line of makeup for Muslim women to wear. And there was such a backlash against that. And
Oh,
so
think I heard about this.
yeah. So I got my character Nabsi and she did a monologue and it was just about, yes, because at that time of the day we really want to look good for nobody. It's that kind of humor, just breaking down the absurdities of, life and stories. And that literally rode the
Yeah.
wave of this, I don't know, for some reason I think everyone was tuning in to this story. So there
Right.
was a algorithm, and that video just rode the wave of it, and yeah, it did well.
Nice. And so, in terms of you and growing up, what were the cartoons that you were watching, or TV
I
shows, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything in
So
between?
we start with cartoons. I love Rugrats.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Oh my gosh, Angelica. Oh, I just remember those little babies. They
Yeah.
had the personalities of witty adults
Yep.
imbibed in these baby characters.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, I feel like children's television was my era. My childhood was
I think so
the
too.
golden era of children's television. So I've got Rugrats. Um, uh, if you can, I mean, like cartoon wise, um, classic Scooby Doo,
Yeah. Of course.
um, Count Dracula,
Yes. Or Count Duckula.
Duckula, yeah.
Did
Uh,
like Count Duckula.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was something so dark about it. It probably needed a PG rating. I don't know how they got away with putting that on children's television.
Yeah,
There was something,
at the risk of exposing both of our ages, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and say that we're from a similar-ish era
yeah,
in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
what we liked and what we watched. So
yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
you think, say it. There's a probably 90% chance that I will know this show.
Okay, so moving away from cartoons, although I don't want to, I feel like there's a lot more I can cover. I will come back to that. I will come back to the cartoons. Um, but um, okay, I can remember it from the theme tune, but it was a kids show from Australia
Round the twist.
going down the twist.
Yes,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
that was a cracking show.
That
Cannot wait to
was.
talk about that.
Again, they don't make that level of
No,
programming. I
not
must say
even close
that.
to
No.
doing thing programs of that quality of that nature. So
Biker Grove.
yes, Biker Grove.
Biker Grove.
I can't wait to talk about that as well.
Yeah, so Biker Grove was good. It launched Ant and
I'm
Dec.
blind, Duncan. I'm blind, and he's like, he can't he see, man? He can't he see?
I think after that episode, for a whole week, I was traumatized. Is he gonna see? Is he not gonna see? You had to wait a whole week before the next episode.
Yeah.
So I was like going into school, literally shedding a tear each day. And I feel like as a kid, I needed therapy to get through the week before the next episode aired because I just could not contain myself. I mean, like in that era, we did not have binge watching.
No, no, it's you
Uh,
need to wait for the
we
next
had to
episode.
we couldn't satisfy our needs straight away, like in a binge watch.
No.
No, we had to exercise patience.
Yeah, and you can imagine because I think Bike Girl used to come on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they'd always leave like the juicy cliffhanger stuff on the Thursday, so you have to wait until the next week until the new episode comes out, and you're like, oh,
well remembered. It was bi-weekly. Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was Tuesday, Thursdays was often when they would show Biker Grove,
Yes.
and then the other days would be Grange Hill. So like the Mondays, the Wednesdays, the Fridays would be
I felt like Grange Hill lost its razzmatazz in the 90s. So it was phasing out.
two
I don't
thousands. You might
yeah.
want to listen back to the episode we did on Grange Hill. We we tried to like decipher 40 years of Grange Hill in about an hour. So
What was the best decade? Was it the first
oh,
decade?
80s.
80s. Okay, okay.
Definitely the 80s, because obviously you had the Zamo drug story, you had Gripper Stepson and the whole racism.
Yeah.
What else did you have? You had Danny Kendall with the drugs. Well, they don't do it like that anymore, do they?
They don't. I mean, you always had Newsround, which would really sanitize the news for
I
children.
don't like Newsround
I wasn't a
because
fan.
no, because not because of the content. The content was fine. I'm sick and tired of people telling me that I look like Lizzo. All right, I look nothing like Lizzo.
Yes, yes,
Stop. Y'all need to
yes.
stop playing with that nonsense.
I was wondering why I'm like gravitating towards Newsround. I was like, there's something that's luring me in.
Yeah,
Yes, Lisa. I
yeah.
think
Lizzo's into podcasts now.
he's, stop following him in his footsteps.
No,
Abdullah,
the amount
Abdullah.
of people that have sent me pictures, memes, gifs, man, no, no. Y'all need
Okay,
to
okay, Abdullah, don't worry. You don't actually
pattern
look
up
like it.
and knock it on the head. I
That's
look,
just,
yeah. That's
you
why I
look
get
nothing
bad
like.
memories of
Yeah, I distinctly remember Lizzo. What's his surname? Mazimba.
Lizzo, yeah. And
Lizzo
he
Mazimba.
does like the BBC Entertainment roundup. I
Yes, he
think I
does. He
saw
does.
him
And
once
he's so
doing.
posh.
Yes, he was, wasn't he?
He still is.
But like, I'm not. No, like
You're
that's.
London. You're London.
Yeah, I am nothing like Lizzo. He's like all posh boy, and I think he actually went to the same uni as my sister, so he shares the same alma mater as my sister. I
Okay,
think they both went to City,
have a
so yeah. No, no.
connection.
And in terms of bringing back one show, if there's one show that you can bring back, what show would it be?
Can it be the one that I'm going to talk about?
Yes,
Or
and
can it be
also
something
because that is happening. Like
that
there
is.
are bringing back Clarissa.
I know that. I know that. I feel excited at this prospect each time I hear about it. It seems like fresh news and not fake news because we have too much of that in the world already.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to bring this lovely chat to an end. Thank you so much for joining us and offering such wisdom and knowledge and bringing that woman to our pod and bringing the power of the woman. Yeah, where can we find you on the socials?
Okay, so if you head to YouTube and just type in my stage name, which is Nabz Pat, Nabz, Pat, Pat, Pat as in Pat Butcher from EastEnders. So I will be there, and I am also quite big on Instagram, so Nabs_Pat.
Awesome. We will give you all a follow, and like I said, thank you so much for being on. Come back soon. All right, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you. This has been a fun podcasting experience. In fact, this has been my first podcasting experience, so thank you very much.
Really?
Yes.
Dip your toes. It's fine. The water's great, and like I said, you'll be welcome anytime you like,
Thank you, thank you, thank
especially in the month of March.
you. It's the only month we have women on.
Yes, definitely. Right. Thank you so much, Nabs, and we'll speak soon.
Bye bye.